The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.
Welcome to the bonus show. We still have midterm election results coming in, and there's some good news, there's some bad news. The good news we sort of mostly had. So let's see, what happened over the weekend? Number one, we had a bunch of concessions from Democrats, which isn't the best, but it's because recounts showed that they didn't win, and when you didn't win, you don't really have that much of a choice but to concede unless you want to come up with creative ways to just kind of drag it out. But there is some good news in the bad news. So number one, in Florida, Andrew Gillum in the gubernatorial race and Bill Nelson in the Senate race both have conceded. The recounts did not give them wins. And really, Pat, I mean, they had no choice but to concede. At this point, their efforts had been exhausted.
Yeah, we can certainly take a lot of lessons from this, namely that Florida has to get its stuff together. I mean, we can't continue to have ballots that are set up in a deceiving way, the count not getting in on time. All of this stuff has to be figured out because it cost us the presidency in 2000, and it looks like it may have cost us a governor and a Senate seat this time around.
Yeah, and speaking of governor seats in Georgia, the Democratic candidate Stacey Abrams, she didn't concede so much. She said that her opponent would be certified as the victor, which is kind of coy language. And for me, Pat, that relates to the fact that that election, of all of the prominent ones in the midterms, was just riddled with voter suppression every step of the way.
Yeah, it sounds like she's conceding without saying that she's conceding, because if you're accepting the results and that your opponent won, you are by definition conceding. I think that she just wants to make sure that the lawsuits will continue, that they're going to look into the voter suppression tactics that Brian Kemp used by leaving people unregistered, by making sure that urban area precincts didn't have enough voting booths, and so that made the lines longer. All these things that the right use, and that has to be done away with soon. And hey, maybe in 4 years or 6 years, whatever the next gubernatorial election is in Georgia, Stacey Abrams will run again, and maybe she'll win this time.
Yes, plenty of time between now and that for sure. One additional California district was decided for Democrats. The 39th congressional district makes it a clean sweep for Democrats in Orange County, which was once a Republican stronghold. So that's very interesting. There is also an upcoming runoff in Mississippi on November 27th. And this is one that, don't forget, this is still sort of part of the midterms. Mike Espy is running against Cindy Hyde-Smith, who has made all sorts of very strange comments on the campaign trail, including one about a public hanging and others. It's not looking great for the Democrat, Pat, but it is an opportunity, if nothing else.
It's an opportunity. I don't think Democrats are going to win there. Remember, in the state next door, Alabama, we had Roy Moore run against Doug Jones, and even though Roy Moore was a credibly accused serial child molester, he only lost by a couple points. I mean, certainly Senator Cindy Hyde-Smith has made some horrible comments, but she'll still win by about 10, 15 points.
Yeah, I just don't think that, given the constituents, I mean, it's not an insult, but I just don't think people who are Republicans in Mississippi are going to vote for a Democrat because the Republican candidate joked about public hangings and made other off-color comments. Like, I just don't see that happening. News from New York City. Former New York City mayor, billionaire Michael Bloomberg is giving $1.8 billion to Johns Hopkins University for student financial aid. This is his alma mater. It's been reported by Reuters and Bloomberg, shockingly. This is interesting because he now has basically said that he's going to be a Democrat for the rest of his life. He has been an independent for a long time. He has been a moderate Republican in his life, sort of de facto. And he now has said, I'm back on the Democratic Party. I'm staying in the Democratic Party. This might relate to him running for president in 2020. We don't really know for sure. And now he is getting behind an issue that has been made very important, fortunately, by some prominent progressive Democrats, which is we've got to do something about student loans and the affordability of college. $1.8 billion, Pat. Stunning. But his critics say doesn't mean anything to him. It's a political ploy. That's all he cares about.
This sounds like a libertarian dream, right? Instead of having the government get involved with the student debt crisis and the ever-increasing cost of college, we just get billionaires to donate a portion of their net worth back into their universities. I mean, what a great plan. We can really scale that, I think, and this can be the solution.
Yeah, and what's that phrase? Competition will start kicking in, and, just everything will kind of take care of itself. That's all you need to do. So anyway, what do you think? I mean, this is great no matter what. No matter what Michael Bloomberg's intentions are, this is good. But again, it's one of those things where it's very safe because this isn't going to jeopardize the private student lending companies in any way. This isn't going to make schools actually start thinking about, wait, we're charging outrageously high amounts. Like, it's safe activism, and it's good for Michael Bloomberg. So congrats to him, I guess, is all we can say.
It will have a real-world impact, and I'm happy about that. But I think that he's doing this as sort of a fluff story to raise his profile. I mean, his net worth, I just looked up, is $46 billion. So if he's giving away $1.8 billion, that is a significant portion of it. I think ultimately he's just getting the pieces in order to run for president in 2020, or at least have that under consideration. And how horrible would it be if we have two billionaires running against each other to become president of the United States? I certainly would not like that. 3 if Oprah gets involved.
Yes, and I think of the 3 of them, I would probably vote for Michael Bloomberg. Like, is that crazy that I would vote for Bloomberg not just over Trump, but over Oprah? Because you know why? A big thing for me is Oprah has been one of the biggest purveyors of pseudoscience nonsense and has made billions of dollars in total for total crackpot quacks like Dr. Oz and so many others. And she is single-handedly responsible for the size, Deepak Chopra, the size of the new age pseudoscience nonsense movement, where I question in practice, am I actually getting most of what I get with Oprah with Michael Bloomberg? I don't know the answer to that. And I know people will get very mad at me for saying this, but I think Oprah's a major problem.
Does this have anything to do with the experience conversation that we've had over the past couple of weeks? Michael Bloomberg was, of course, the mayor of New York City, whereas Oprah has never held elected office. Is that something that's really important to you now?
It is important, although I don't think that being mayor of New York City necessarily prepares you to be president of the United States. But I think there's no doubt that Bloomberg has significant administrative experience in that sense. I'm ready for the hate mail. How could I say Bloomberg over Oprah? I don't think that's going to be the choice any of us end up making, folks, so let's not go crazy. The Texas Board of Education voted late last week, to change the way that its students learn about the Civil War. Starting next year, they are going to be taught that slavery played a central role in the Civil War. Can you imagine how shocking to tell them the truth about the Civil War? Previously, they were told that there were 3 causes for the Civil War: sectionalism, states' rights, and slavery, in that order. Democrats wanted slavery listed as the only cause. Republicans said we've got to keep the other causes in there. And in the end, they said, okay, we're going to teach students that the central role of the expansion of slavery caused sectionalism and disagreements over states' rights, kind of putting slavery in this primary position. Isn't it disgusting that this is a debate that's still being had?
Absolutely. Absolutely is. And you really only need slavery to be listed there because those other reasons are kind of secondary. States' rights, well, a state's right to do what? For it to allow its citizens to hold slaves. Sectionalism, I think, has to do with the fact that the country was so diverse and, Texas is so far away from Maine, for example, that you have differences in culture, differences of opinion. Well, that also comes down to slavery because in one portion of the country they allowed it and in another portion they didn't. You only need slavery on that list.
And for people who have not been following the disaster that is the Texas Board of Education, when it comes to revisionist history and textbooks in general, Texas has had a huge role to play in that because being one of the highest population states And I guess we would say, I mean, Texas is by far the biggest red state in the country, right? Certainly in terms of population. They, by virtue of making decisions as to what the books need to say for them, they influence what books end up being used in so many other places because many other states don't have books custom tailored to them. Texas Board of Education decides what they want in books. Publishers print them, and then those same books are offered in lots of other states. And that's why the Texas Board of Education has had so much power over the last 5 to 10 years to make these horrible decisions.
I think
that is it for today. We've got a... Oh, sorry, Pat, go ahead.
Very key point here. I think the Republicans who are upset about the fact that slavery is going to be now the sole reason why we had slavery in the United States are going to seek solace in blaming it all on Democrats, that it was Democrats who were the slave owners, Democrats who wanted to continue slavery, and not ever mention that the fact that we had a political realignment in this country, mostly in the 1960s. But there are people like Dinesh D'Souza and others on like the Daily Wire network who will just completely ignore this whole political alignment or political realignment philosophy.
I actually saw an interview that Dinesh D'Souza did, or a debate he did with Roland Martin. I saw a little bit of that over the weekend, and he was, again, just playing super dumb with the entire political realignment. They've been doing this for so long. It's pathetic. We know the move. And you just need to have... You really need to be armed with the facts, because otherwise they will win by mudding the waters with that selective ignoring of the political party realignment. Very good point. That's it for today. New show, new bonus show tomorrow.
The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.